Hello! In today's training, we will learn how to set up a cluster in Senha Segura. Here in our example, you use a two-node clustered environment, where our node IP ending in 66 will be our master, the primary node, and the other one ending in 67 will be our secondary node, the slave. Bear in mind that before performing the cluster assembling procedure, you must validate that the two instances of Senha Segura, or all the instances that will be part of the cluster, are all in exactly the same version. To do this, you can access the orbit, go to Application, Application Version, and locate Senha Segura PAM. You can use Ctrl F to locate it. Here, in my case, it is 3.18, and I also know that my secondary node is in the same version, so we can start the procedure of setting up the cluster. Well, to set up a cluster, we need to come to Orbit in Replication, Settings. With the Setting menu open, I locate some options. Here, in our case, we are going to mark it as Cluster, which is perfect because it's a clustered environment that we want to set up. We will enable replication and file synchronization. Right after that, we need to inform which nodes will belong to our cluster. The primary node we know is 66, so I enter this node, and our secondary node is 67, which is this IP. Well, after that, we can click on Save. We confirm the action, and we wait for it to process. You can also validate your task was successfully requested is still in the orbit. Coming to Logs, Tasks Execution. Here, for example, was my requested task of cluster assembly. We can see its status as requested and it's also as executed. Perfect! After the execution of the task, we can, on the same node, go back to Replication, Status. This menu will display a general status of how a clustered environment is currently performing. Here in our case, our cluster size, which is a very important variable, presents only the number 1 because only one node belongs to the cluster. So let's insert the secondary node now. Well, for that, we're going to access the 67 here and also access the Orbit menu, Replication, and Settings. On the secondary node, we are going to do exactly the same configuration on the same order as our primary node. So let's go back to Settings so we can compare. So even on my node 67, my primary node will still be node 66. So I'm going to check Cluster here, Enable Replication, File Synchronization, and I'm going to enter my primary node, which is 66, and my node 67, which is the one I'm setting up here now. Following the same logic as the first node, enabling it as a cluster, enabling a replication, file synchronization, and always in the same order. If there was a third node, a fourth node, a fifth node, all the nodes would always follow the same order. So if here is a 66, 67, 68, we are going to insert the same order in all nodes. Even if I am at the 68, the order will be 66, 67, and 68. Let's save and wait for the request to be processed. After the task of setting up and inserting the second node of the cluster is finished, it will be common for you to be logged off from this respective node, considering that if you are using the same user is still active on the 66. And again, let's access the status menu. Now, unlike our cluster size here in our cluster size menu, in our status menu, it stays at 2. Previously, as we said, it was at 1 because there was only one node in the cluster. Now that we have synchronized the second node, which is our 67, the cluster size has been changed to 2. And this way, we have been able to set up a cluster of 2 nodes using Senha Segura. Thank you.
you.